Welcome to the fifth episode of Decoding the Profiles in Power, brought to you by West Ferry Times. In this series, we delve into the lives of political leaders and their journeys to power, uncovering the stories that shape their legacy. Today, we are focusing on a rising star in Scottish politics, Humza Yousaf.
Indeed, Humza Yousaf's career has been a fascinating one. From being the son of immigrants to becoming Scotland's first minister, his story is one of ambition, resilience, and political savvy. As a member of the Scottish National Party, SNP, he has carved out a unique path that has made waves not just in Scotland, but across the UK. Quote,
Ah, yes, and what an inspiring journey it's been. Humza's leadership in the SNP and his rapid rise through the ranks reflect his determination and his deep commitment to Scotland's future. But it's not all smooth sailing, of course. Today, we'll explore the challenges, triumphs, and controversies that have marked his path to power.
Absolutely. Humza Yousaf has faced obstacles that many in his position would struggle to overcome. His story is a powerful example of how perseverance and a strong sense of purpose can lead to change, even in the face of adversity.
We'll begin by exploring his early life and what shaped him into the leader he is today. Ready to dive in, Alex?
Absolutely. Let's begin with the formative years of Humza Yousaf.
Humza Yousaf was born in 1985 in Glasgow, Scotland, to parents who had emigrated from Pakistan. His father, Mohammed Yousaf, moved to the UK in the 1960s and later became one of the first South Asian drivers for the Scottish bus service. It's clear that Humza's early experiences were shaped by his parents' immigrant journey and the values of hard work and resilience they instilled in him.
Yes, and it's important to highlight that Humza's upbringing was not without its challenges. Growing up in a city that was often divided along racial lines, Humza encountered discrimination and prejudice. This shaped his worldview and his determination to fight for equality and social justice.
Indeed, his experiences with racism and exclusion pushed him toward politics. He attended the University of Glasgow, where he studied politics and international relations. It was during his university years that Humza began to find his voice as a political activist. He joined the Scottish National Party, SNP, a decision that would set him on his political trajectory.
Right, and his early involvement with the SNP wasn't just about supporting the party's agenda. It was about creating a platform for change. Humza became passionate about the issue of Scottish independence, a cause that has defined much of his political life. His commitment to independence was clear from the beginning, but his political career would soon expand beyond that single issue.
Humza's deep commitment to equality, social justice, and diversity began to crystallize during his student years. He was driven by a desire to make a real difference, and it wasn't long before he started making waves in the political scene.
Ah, yes, his journey from the university halls to the Scottish Parliament is a fascinating one, and we'll get into that next.
Humza Yousaf's political career began in earnest when he was elected as a member of the Scottish Parliament, MSP, for Glasgow in 2011. At the time, he was just 26 years old, making him one of the youngest members of the Parliament. His election was a momentous occasion, not just because of his youth, but because it symbolized a changing political landscape in Scotland.
It's amazing to think about that moment, just 26, and already making history in Scottish politics. His early work focused on international development and social justice. He served as the Minister for External Affairs and International Development, using his platform to advocate for human rights and champion Scotland's role on the world stage.
Indeed, Humza quickly became known for his articulate and compelling arguments in favor of social justice. But it wasn't just about international development for him. He was also focused on issues closer to home, such as poverty, unemployment, and inequality within Scotland's own borders.
Humza's rise within the SNP was swift. In 2016, he was appointed Minister for Transport and the Islands. In this role, he worked on projects that improved Scotland's infrastructure and connected rural communities. His focus on transport highlighted his pragmatic approach to politics. He wasn't just focused on abstract ideals, but also on tangible improvements for everyday people.
Absolutely. And then came his appointment as the Cabinet Secretary for Justice in 2018, where he really started to shape policy on law enforcement, justice reform, and social equality. As a politician, Humza wasn't afraid to take bold steps, something that would continue throughout his career.
And through these roles, Humza's public profile continued to rise. It was clear that he was not only a skilled politician, but also someone with a strong moral compass, committed to creating a fairer, more inclusive Scotland.
Humza's time as the Cabinet Secretary for Justice was a defining chapter in his career. In this role, he pushed for significant changes to the criminal justice system. One of his major initiatives was to improve rehabilitation programs for offenders. focusing on reducing recidivism and offering second chances to those who had served their time.
Yes, his approach to justice was based on a belief in rehabilitation over punishment. This was seen as a progressive stance, particularly in a time when the penal system was often focused on retribution. His push for alternatives to prison, such as community sentences and restorative justice programs, was both bold and forward-thinking.
Humza's commitment to social justice was a key theme in his political journey. Whether it was in justice, transport, or international development, he consistently fought for policies that promoted equality and fairness. It was no surprise when he eventually became the leader of the SNP in 2023, following the resignation of Nicola Sturgeon.
Indeed, his leadership of the SNP marked a new chapter in both his personal journey and the party's future. Humza became Scotland's first minister, becoming the youngest ever person to hold this position. His leadership was seen as a milestone for Scottish politics, particularly as he became the first person of South Asian descent to lead the country.
What a remarkable achievement. Humza's election as First Minister was symbolic not only for the SNP but also for Scotland as a whole. His leadership reflected the growing diversity within the nation and symbolized the changing face of Scottish politics.
As First Minister, Humza Yousaf was tasked with tackling some of Scotland's most pressing issues, from economic recovery following the COVID-19 pandemic to the ongoing debate over Scottish independence. But it was clear from the outset that Humza had a vision for Scotland that went beyond the typical political battles.
Yes, Humza's vision for Scotland was grounded in social justice, environmental sustainability, and inclusivity. He focused heavily on issues such as healthcare, education, and housing, aiming to create a Scotland that worked for everyone. His progressive policies resonated with many, particularly in the context of a post-Brexit world.
One of his most notable achievements was his commitment to tackling climate change. Humza's government pushed for policies that would reduce Scotland's carbon emissions and increase the country's investment in renewable energy sources. He viewed this not just as an environmental issue, but as an economic opportunity for Scotland to lead in the green economy.
Yeah, and it's important to note that Humza's leadership was not without its challenges. He inherited a country still grappling with the economic fallout from the pandemic and dealing with divisions over the independence referendum. But Humza's calm and steady leadership helped stabilize the nation during turbulent times.
As First Minister, Humza also placed a strong emphasis on equality and diversity. He has championed policies to address gender inequality, poverty, and discrimination, striving to make Scotland a more inclusive nation for all. His leadership style has been described as inclusive and collaborative, seeking to bring people together rather than divide them.
Of course, no political figure rises to power without facing criticism, and Humza Yousaf is no exception. One of the biggest challenges he faced as leader of the SNP was navigating the ongoing independence debate. Although Humza is a staunch advocate for Scottish independence, his position has at times been viewed as too ambitious, especially given the political climate post-Brexit.
That's right. Some critics argue that Humza's focus on independence could be alienating for those who don't see it as a priority, particularly as Scotland's economic situation remains fragile. He's been criticized for pushing the independence agenda at a time when some believe more attention should be given to economic recovery and domestic issues.
His leadership has also been tested by Scotland's struggles with healthcare and education. While Humza has made strides in these areas, the public sector in Scotland continues to face significant challenges, particularly in terms of waiting times for NHS services and educational inequalities. Humza has faced accusations of failing to make enough progress on these critical issues.
Indeed, the pressures of leadership in a post-pandemic world are immense, and Humza's critics point to his inability to bring about meaningful reforms in these sectors as a sign that his leadership is faltering. His attempts to balance competing demands, particularly between his pro-independence supporters and those who seek domestic solutions, have often led to frustration.
Yet, Humza's supporters argue that the challenges he faces are not of his own making. The economic impacts of the pandemic and the political fallout from Brexit have made leading Scotland more difficult than ever before. His critics may not see it, but there's no denying that Humza's leadership has been marked by a determination to make Scotland a fairer, greener, and more inclusive nation.
Humza Yousaf's tenure as First Minister has been far from easy. He has faced criticism on multiple fronts, but there's no denying that he has made significant strides in shaping Scotland's future. His legacy, whether viewed positively or negatively, will likely be defined by his commitment to progressive politics and his determination to see Scotland reach its full potential.
Indeed, Humza Yousaf's legacy will likely be one of ambition, resilience, and the desire for change. He has faced significant challenges, but he has also taken bold steps to tackle issues such as climate change, inequality, and the future of Scottish independence. Only time will tell how his leadership will be remembered.
Humza Yousaf's journey from a young, ambitious politician to the First Minister of Scotland is one of determination, leadership, and an unwavering commitment to social justice. While his time in office has been fraught with challenges, his vision for Scotland and his desire for change are undeniable.
No matter what the future holds, Humza's impact on Scottish politics will certainly be remembered. His legacy as a leader who worked tirelessly for a fairer, more inclusive society is already beginning to take shape.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to join us next time as we dive deeper into the stories that shaped our world. Until then, stay curious and take care.
Absolutely. And don't forget to stay tuned with West Ferry Times. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel and share it with your friends and family. Let's keep the conversation going.